Hey, you made a pretty bold accusation a couple minutes ago. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more about that?
What was it? What?
The steroids comment?
Everybody's on steroids.
And you know what? He could be right. So if you didn't already know, boxing has a drug problem. But this is the extent of how bad it actually is. All these fighters you're seeing are either the highest profiles in the sport or have fought for world titles, and all have popped dirty in the last decade or so. The list just goes on and on and on and on. Now okay, it's not a new thing, it's been happening since way back in the day. I mean, even the great Muhammad Ali had his moment, but oh fuck me, it's still going. Alright, let's stop it there. Plenty more by the way, but let's move on. Yes, drug testing wasn't as prevalent as it is now, so who knows what they got up to back then. However, now there really is so much money in the sport, even around domestic level, that many cheeky chappies don't want to miss out on, so they try get themselves that little advantage any which way they can. So we have VADA and WADA testing fighters, we have people like UCAD and USADA also testing on a regular basis, and yet fighters are still popping dirty. So the question is, can this major issue be fixed? Well, I suppose yes and no. Well, no is the answer actually, let's be fucking honest, it'll never stop. But there is one specific thing that can be used to eradicate the problem significantly, and I'll get to that in a minute. But of course the problem ain't just with the fighters, the problem is with the governing bodies, the commissions, the testing agencies. There's no concrete rules to abide by, everyone's got a different outlook on it all, different processes they follow, and if someone gets caught you never know if they're going to be banned for life or still be fighting next week. For example, Dillian Whyte showed an adverse finding days before his fight against Rivas and was still able to get in the ring. Eric Morales tested positive for clenbuterol before fighting Danny Garcia and the fight still went ahead, and Oscar Valdez tested positive for a banned substance before his fight with that Robson fella, in which his A and B sample both showed the same drug, but he was allowed to go ahead with the fight as well. Oh, and by the way, all three of them never got any repercussions afterwards. Brilliant. And then we come on to Tyson Fury. Aye, strap in. Yeah, sorry Fury fans, but it is a fact that he failed a drug test for banned steroid nandrolone after his fight against Christian Hammer in February 2015, but confusingly nothing was done at all in regards to going through a process to resolve the issue, and he was allowed to go on and fight Vladimir Klitschko just 8 months later. It was months after this fight that the situation was made public, and that's when the powers that be decided to act. But why did it take a year when the results were available immediately after the Hammer fight? The same with Amir Khan failing after the Kell Brook fight, nearly a year it took for that to be made public. Now old Klitschko's manager Bernie Bonti was furious about all this, and he said in a Dan Raphael article that if they'd known about the failed test they would have insisted on VADA testing for the fight. But bloody hell, there we are, the plot thickens and I've got even more questions. Why, in what turned out to be the most important heavyweight fight of this era, in which the division was completely changed after a number of years, why was there not VADA testing? Both men should have been under strenuous testing. I mean, think how hard heavyweights hit without performance enhancers, let alone with. It's just all a bit fucking mind-boggling to me. I don't know about you. Now don't worry Fury fans, I'm going to give all sides to this, because in fairness to Fury, he did pass all UCAD tests in the 6 months before the Klitschko fight. However, unrelated to Fury, herein lies another problem. UCAD and VADA test for different things. VADA has its own list of prohibited substances, which is a very long list by the way, which is different to someone like UCAD who has a much shorter list. To put that into perspective, a boxer could fail a VADA test for a certain substance, but then pass a UCAD test even though the same substance is in their system. So why? Why are not all these testing agencies working off the same list? I just don't get it. This is turning into a fucking rant, this video, but yeah, you can see it's all just madness, innit? And to be honest, it seems like boxers don't give much of a bollock about it nowadays. It's so prolific and the punishments are so mild that it's almost becoming the norm. I mean, figure this one out. You've got the most disgraced man in the whole of sport still now working with the very best fighters on the planet. Now, if you don't know Victor Conte, well, back in the late 80s and 90s, he created a range of supplements, some legit, but also some that would be undetectable to drug testing agencies. He made a multi-million-dollar fortune working with some of the best athletes in the world while secretly mapping out their cycles in his lab so that they would never get caught. The man is absolutely shameful, but in a sick way. I suppose he's a bit of a fucking genius as well. He of course worked with many boxers during his heyday, and when he was finally found out, the shit hit the fan and his clients were all questioned. One of them happened to be Hall of Famer Shane Mosley, who admitted in court that Conte taught him to inject EPO, of which he willingly took for a period of time after they met in July 2003.
Did you know you were taking EPO, yes or no?
Yes.
Interestingly, this was around the same time he'd just come off his first career losses, 2 back-to-back defeats to Vernon Forrest, but then after meeting Conte 2 months later he went on to beat Oscar De La Hoya to become freeweight world champion. What a fucking coincidence. Anyway, eventually justice was served and Victor received a short 4-month prison sentence. I don't know if that is justice, but okay. But lo and behold, in no time at all, he's back in the game. Now putting the majority of his focus on boxing and still championing his infamous supplement snack with the likes of Terence Crawford, Devin Haney among many others. So how the bloody hell is this man allowed to be anywhere near an athlete, let alone athletes who inflict damage on their opponents? This is what Ryan Garcia was making a point of after the Haney fight when he failed for Osterine. He reckons because Conte is working with Devin Haney and apparently has friends at VADA that he could have contaminated or modified the test. Yes, okay, it's a long shot, but I suppose he's got a very minor point because Conte is in fact friends with Margaret Goodman, the founder of VADA.
Did I introduce Margaret Goodman and Flip Homansky that run VADA, 2 people like Dick Pound, who was the founding chairman of WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency? Yes, I made some introductions, but nothing more than that.
There we are, and yes, ultimately Ryan is right. This man should not be allowed anywhere near any fight, let alone a mega fight like Haney versus Garcia. However, sorry to say it, Ryan, but you're not getting a pass because you used to work with Conte as well, you great big fucking sponge. I mean, pot kettle, you muppet, bloody hell. So let's talk about Ryan. Well, he's got plenty of fans and they're all banging the drum for his innocence and they're saying it's all a conspiracy. Yeah, alright, whatever, each to their own, I suppose. But they're gonna believe him because he told his millions of followers a load of rubbish like there was a billionth of a gram in his system, which is actually a complete lie because there was in fact 60 times the testing limit in his system. But either way, his A sample and his B sample have come back with the same showing of Osterine. Then the product in which he claimed was contaminated released a statement saying they've run tests to show there was no Osterine and there never has been any Osterine in their supplements. So why is there even a debate? Why is he not already banned? What's the hold up? And just coming back to this billionth of a gram talk, even if that was true, if someone did have a billionth of a gram in their system, who knows how much they had in their system the day before, or the day before that, or even the week before that. This tiny amount could be what is left over from a large amount consumed previously. Or it could just be a tiny amount of what a masking agent didn't mask. So then let's talk about this. How does it all work? In the words of Nate Diaz, everybody's on steroids, and if that is the case, how are they all getting away with it? Well, according to Inside Science, it works like this. Anti-doping agencies test for most of the substances known to give athletes an unfair advantage, and when they take the blood or urine sample, they run tests of which the results show chemical structures. If these chemical structures are in the shape of what they know to be a banned substance, that athlete fails the test and has clearly been doping. However, they can only recognise the shapes they are familiar with, so if a banned substance is modified in some way to not show the usual structure, it won't be detectable, and that is pretty much the simple version. Then there's things such as microdosing, and I'll let this fella explain that one.
EPO can be detected in your urine unless you microdose. And it's simple. Take a speck of EPO, 1/10,000th of a gram, before you go to bed, and then drink a litre of water. By the time they can test you in the morning, the drug has broken down in your blood and the water dilutes your urine, leaving no trace of the EPO.
So yeah, this is merely one way of probably a million ways to get around testing, and the clever dogs behind the scenes in the boxing world like Victor Conte know exactly what they're doing. Now back to old Garcia, and I know we're banging on about him, but hopefully he does get a ban because strict liability should come into play. But let's be honest, you bet your bumhole it's probably going to be a measly old 6-month ban. He fights every 6 months anyway, so this is really going to affect him, and he's going to go, oh no, how awful, you've really stitched me up there. And this is yet another major issue that needs to be addressed. Someone tell me why the likes of Adam McCarge, a British heavyweight that you may not have heard of, was banned in 2019 for 4 years due to the use of clomiphene, which as we know through Conor Benn's situation is a testosterone booster, not a steroid, and yet Big Baby Miller was given a shitty old 6-month ban for injecting every single ped in the fucking world up his arse. Do the maths on that one. A whopping 3 banned substances he failed on, including EPO, which was taken via injection, and the board go, oh no problem, we'll see you in 6 months. terrific. You can't make it up, can you? So where's the bloody balance? The ultimate problem in all this is that there's no world governing body or entity able to monitor the situations or enforce the punishments. Each time it's left down to the commission involved with the fight or whoever granted the licence to act upon the findings, meaning everyone's going to have a different view on what they consider to be fair. The really sad thing is that it's inevitable that one day someone's unfortunately going to lose their life in the ring, and the person who threw the punch is then going to fail a test or be found to have used performance enhancing drugs. That'll be the day that everything will have to change. For me though, the strict liability rule needs to be enforced every time, and it needs to be zero tolerance, no exceptions made whatsoever. If your A and B sample both show the same thing, tough shit, you're in trouble. You can say what you want about contamination, it was a mistake or some roidhead fucking sneezed on me, but this needs to be disregarded because everyone who gets caught never admits to what they did. And most of the time, let's be honest, they're just fucking lying, aren't they? I'm not saying anyone in this video is lying, and I'm not saying Shane Mosley is lying, but this is what we're dealing with.
So he gives me cream, so I take that, and then the other thing was the injectable, was for your hematocrit levels. So I said, okay, well, anything you give me, I told Victor, anything you give me, you call the commission and see if it's all good and clear. Victor said, okay, yeah, everything's clear. You're not gonna get popped for anything. I said, okay, cool.
Did you know you were taking EPO, yes or no?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be fair to say you took the EPO before Conti could have called any commission?
I guess, yeah. I mean,
Yes, everyone's got an excuse. Now, there will probably never be a world governing body, which is what the sport ultimately needs to solve all this. However, maybe there is something all the governing bodies can do to help diminish the widespread problem, and that's to take away the one thing that everyone in the sport cares about the most: the money. Imagine if the fighters' purses were put in escrow and the money was not paid out until all tests come back negative, but any positive test with the A and B sample both showing the same thing means you lose your whole purse. Then how many people would be doping? Hardly any, because the thought of losing all that money is absolutely terrifying, and you'd be mad to take the chance. And if anyone does lose the purse, give the leftover money to grassroots boxing or something, or give it to the homeless like Fury did. Yeah. Now, contrary to popular belief, I'm not that thick. I know this will never happen, but that's pretty much the only way that I can see things changing, because the threat of losing money will force the fighters to conform, whereas the threat of a 6-month ban clearly ain't getting them too worried. Since this is one of the most lethal contact sports in the world, the punishment needs to be as severe as it gets, and maybe the people calling for them to be banned for life are correct as well. But just like the money suggestion, that'll never be enforced either. The day it changes will be the same day it all ends in tears, and by then it's gonna be too late. Now let me know your thoughts on the dodgy old drug situation these days, and I'll see you double soon.